Sup, my fellas, don't forget to leave feedback, and enjoy the story. I fixed my gaze on the red-clad monster in front of him, its red-clawed paw dug into the earth. The 3 soldiers nearby were addressed by the enormous monster as it opened its mouth and roared. They gave the monster a determined gaze. It viciously attacked them. How dare these lowly mortals challenge him, the monster cried. Under the 3 people's feet, the ground exploded. The man in the blue suit fell to the ground. The pavement broke away from his foot. With amazing strength, he leaped to his feet and swung his sword. The monster was split in 2 by his weapon. The guy was smiling with satisfaction and there was an explosion behind him. The monster broke into pieces. The individual visited the sinkhole. His sword was disintegrating. He pulled something from the pit. The boy was given a piece of the scroll written in the dragon's blood. He smiled as he held the piece in his hands. He was presented with a message asking if he wanted to combine all 9 scroll fragments. Around him, the fragments spun. Together, they were. He was congratulated on getting the legendary 5-star dragon blood scroll. He was holding the scroll. He held it gleefully. The scroll was in his hands when someone stabbed him in the back from behind. It was his sister who offered her condolences and pledged to look after the scroll and Jojo on his behalf. Mu Chen was her name. When player Zhang was attacked by player Mu Chen's critical strike skill, he lost 32 million HP and was left lying bloody in a sinkhole. He was informed by the system that he had no more options for resurrection, so he passed away. Apocalypse was a virtual reality game that took 5 years and 3 trillion yuan to develop. It employed thousands of top designers from around the world. Apocalypse is a contemporary action game that depicts the mid-21st century when alien monsters attacked humans after invading the Earth through wormholes. All non-human creatures living on the planet were infected and started to mutate as a result of the ecological damage that the conflict between the 2 sides had done to the planet. Unless you played the game, there was no way to stop the disaster. However, after the open beta version of the game was released, all players who entered the game encountered one issue. Normally, all players who do not enter the game will be violently killed by the apocalypse system and become NPCs in the game world. They were compelled to play the game indefinitely and were unable to do so. The players were terrified. Despite one of them having played the game for 8 years, they were in panic mode. And then his closest companion and love turned on him. He was unable to accept it. He opened his eyes. He sprang from bed and yelled at Muchan and Jojo for betraying him. August 28, 2025 was the time. In 2 hours and 12 minutes, the gates to the end of the world would open. The clock's voice questioned whether the players were prepared. When Johnny held the clock, he was startled because the apocalypse had not yet been mentioned. He walked over to the window and pulled open the drapes. Outside, all was quiet. When Johnny returned, the game had not yet been announced, as he soon realized. He intended to exact justice on Muchan. He was furious, clenching his fist. At his laptop, Johnny sat down. Finding the divine talent cards that had been dispersed before the game began was now of utmost importance. He looked up information on these cards online. All players in the post-apocalypse game will initially be assigned talents at random by the system. Finding a talent card in reality is the only way to use rare divine talents. Apocalypse's creator, Sky Fortune, released 10 divine talent cards that were dispersed at random throughout the globe. The closest divine card to him was on the roof of the Jean Mal building, the tallest shopping center in Linhai City, if the card's locations remained the same. Johnny took a plane to the city. He dashed through the streets and ascended that structure. John had it right. The card was present, in fact. It was golden in color and hovered above a stand. Johnny was surrounded by a man. Liu Qingji asserted ownership of the map and the entire Jean Mal building. The first person to arrive, according to Johnny, had the map. In a previous existence, this man, Liu Qingji, the heir to the biggest real estate firm in Linhai, owned the final divine talent card. Zhang Yi was the target of several armed men. They fired their weapons. Liu Qingji yelled at him and threatened to kill him for stealing. The sky cleared. Shots whizzed by Zhang. He ran before going back. Zhang hurried up the wall. He leaped to his feet and examined his watch. 5 seconds had passed until 12. Zhang ran to the globe. He was yelled at by Liu Qingji to not even consider taking his card. Zhang took the map in hand. Liu's reflection was visible in his eyes. He was shot by him. The bullet struck him in the head. His eyes were making noise. 12 o'clock had come. Zhang could see the bullet in front of his eye. Over the city, a silhouette of a person appeared. A male wearing gold jewelry and a dress. The match had started. Zhang held a map in his hands and was faced with a decision. Did he wish for the end of the world? Zhang decided right away. He got into a vortex. He vanished. Downloading of player data. Everyone was perplexed. Everyone was disintegrating. Data downloads were happening. People were leaving the streets in droves. We were told to proceed to the world intended for players by a figure that suddenly appeared over the city. An odd eye emerged. Zhang went back to the end of the world. He took a position with his eyes fixed on the pyramid. In a magical environment, the card was in motion. It was a diagram of divine aptitude. Zhang made his way there. He approached and extended his hand toward the card. The feather started to drop. There appeared a lovely flying creature with long blonde hair. Zhang eventually got the card. On the card were his name, his age, 22, and that he was unemployed. Zhang was player 8857 when the creature addressed him. She was his distinct gaming soul. He was congratulated by the spirit for being given a special divine talent card for personal use. With a 1-hour recharge time, its ability allowed it to mimic the skills of other players. They had 3 different colored lights surrounding them as they stood in a circle. In the game, there were 3 camps to select from. There was an elf, animal, and human camp. They had the option of selecting a camp. Hang was contemplating. He had sided with the human camp in his previous life. Furthermore, in the post-apocalyptic world, prestige was the most significant factor, so players in the human camp could increase their prestige rating by 20%. The spirit was carrying a gift for Zhang. She was holding a bundle. The scroll contained Druken blood. Zhang was baffled as to how he had gotten there. He laughed at the idea that the object Mooch wanted would still be Zhang's property. The dragon blood scroll was recognized by the system. The secret dragon camp was accessible. Zhang became interested in this. He approached the gate while standing in front of it. Zhang reached out and touched the door. A dazzling light turned on. He made his way over to the subway. Others surrounded Zhang. He passed them by. The opening was the same as before. The people around him were enthusiastic about the design of the game. They were eager to slay monsters. The hallway was clouded over. Zhang was assessing his condition. He possessed a dragon race ability that was special. Every time he launched a standard attack or employed a skill, there was a 10% chance of conjuring a hell dragon, which would deal 150% of the attack power to all nearby enemies. Although the likelihood is very small, the effect is almost as potent as a divine talent card. Zhang now desired to become acquainted with the card. He desired to imitate someone's talent. Bright sunlight was in the sky. There were pieces scattered all over. He could unwind knowing he was a part of the team, someone on the bus had said. Zhang chose that man as his target and reached out to grab him by the shoulder. The bald man turned to face him and pretended to ask if Zhang desired a duel. He apologized, said he was confused, and removed his hand from the innocently scratching the back of his head. Zhang was able to mimic the legendary skill of the treasure hunter, the capacity to locate nearby treasure chests within a 500-meter range. The heroic level made Zhang happy. The apocalypse was announced by a voice coming from the speakers. In a room with a microphone, there was a man wearing glasses. He wished that everyone would take full advantage of the game, and he referred to everyone as his warriors in a wary voice. The bald man approached the train window with assurance. Zhang quickly blocked his way with his hand. He warned the man not to act carelessly because it was extremely dangerous outside as he stood in front of him. The bald man shoved Zhang and referred to him as a coward because to him it was only a game. He instructed the others to remain in hiding and keep an eye on him as he wriggled through the broken window. He jumped out of the window a short while later. The bald man suddenly found himself inside a mutant spider's mouth. A huge spider killed player 13,580. He was helpless to reanimate. The computer monitor indicated that the game had ended as the bald man lay there with headphones on. A scared boy sat next to Zhang as he watched the monitor while he was seated in front of it. The gamer had expired. This was no longer just a game, Zhang yelled. They would actually pass away if they lost in the game. It was a struggle for survival. A group of spiders were moving toward the train. The goal was to survive. They had to locate a safe area and use the map to locate the 886 safe area in the City of Hope, which is located in the 8th district. There, security was assured. They had 3 hours 58 minutes to spare. If you won, there was a chance of resurrection. If you lost, death awaited. Around them, panic spread. They were surrounded by monsters, and the girl was unsure of what to do. The only option left, the man told her, was to regain consciousness and confront them. Zhang discovered something in the trunk. It was an emergency hammer that someone in Car 7 had previously used as a weapon. The other players were extremely envious because it turned out to be a blue-quality disguised weapon. Just as Zhang anticipated, the hammer transformed into a sword. It was a blue-quality ice blade. It was constructed of chili meteorite iron. Furthermore, Zhang had used his newly discovered talent to reveal that the wagon contained a treasure box. His vision changed to X-ray, and he could see the box clearly. Zhang reached the box by bending beneath the seat. It contained a dragon's breath potion of blue quality. The spiders were thrown out of the carriage by someone who flew out of it. Zhang was the one who used his weapon to slash them. Everyone admired his weapon. You must exercise caution even with such a weapon when there are so many monsters nearby. The spiders were ready to strike. Zhang eluded them by running. He ascended the incline. He pulled out a potion and cracked it open. This dragon flame was thrown at the spiders by Zhang. It broke, and the monsters started to blaze with brilliant fire. Zhang's level was raised. He received 50 copper coins, and he also received the potion of life. Zhang was overjoyed and wished to locate additional dragon potions. His quick victory shocked the others in the wagon. They did not think he was telling the truth and believed Zhang to be a liar. Some of them thought he was not a novice and wanted to team up with him. Zhang was ready to travel to the City of Hope as shown on the map. It had already grown dark. Zhang walked while examining the map. Someone was on the move. Zhang picked it up. The man ran up to Zhang and knelt down before him, pleading with him to save his daughter from the monsters. Although there were supposed to be many useful items in the forest, many players had run into trouble there in Zhang's previous life. The man's face had a demonic appearance. Zhang moved through the pitch-black forest in search of the man's daughter. When Zhang turned around, he was unaware of the man's location. He chose to proceed forward. In the forest, he detected an odd sensation. A young child was crying while holding a candy while standing. Zhang came up to her and offered to assist her, saying that this place was hazardous. On the horizon, a man and a woman appeared and thanked Zhang. He had no idea what was going on. She claimed that Zhang had delivered her yet another victim. Zhang was tasked with bringing the girl back to the City of Hope after rescuing her from the forest. Talia's ring was the prize, and he had 59 minutes to get it, and nothing in the event of failure. In his previous life, many people had discovered this secret quest while wandering the pitch-black forest, Zhang recalled. Because of the reward and opportunity, many people were eager to accept the assignment. Zhang did not want to pass up this chance. He agreed to do the job. The woman's hands transformed into clawed paws. She instructed the young woman to freeze and turn into her dinner. The girl was in tears when Zhang told her not to run away and to wait for him to take care of her and take her to the village. In his hand, a sword materialized. He went after the woman with the steel skin. He hit her physically, which made her laugh. Zhang kept attacking, but it was ineffective. The spirit informed Zhang that his 20th rank boss was a magical spider. She explained that since he lacked the necessary skills to succeed, it would be better to give up now. Zhang resisted the urge to flee. The spirit hoped he would act morally. He objected and launched a furious attack. He recalled from the video that there was a hidden box nearby as he ran in the direction of the enormous spider. There might be a skill in a book that could give him an advantage. Zhang turned on the treasure hunting ability. He noticed the box. Zhang snuck past her legs while dodging the spider. She understood that she was not the intended victim of his assault. Zhang got to the box and cracked it open. Giant spiders attacked as soon as the spider turned around. A blue item, the same skill book, and a line of lightning were given to Zhang. Zhang was taking the book out as the spiders were coming closer. It had the power to fire a barrage of lightning bolts that could bounce from one foe to another, dealing 200 points of damage and increasing the damage by 10% with each kill of a foe. The spider was getting ready to swarm Zhang. He now touched the book and pulled out something. Lightning erupted from his hands in an instant. The spider was struck by light. Zhang attacked it expertly and vanquished all of the adversaries. Zhang was ecstatic to receive the poison dagger, an epic weapon, as his reward. It could deal 20 points of damage to an opponent and was laced with spider venom. Zhang led the girl home while holding her hand. She acknowledged him. On the horizon, they could see the lovely City of Hope. They passed people as they crossed the bridge. One of the men in back of them questioned his employer about the theft of his divine talent card. Liu Qingji gave the others a watchful order after becoming enraged with Zhang. In the City of Hope, there were lots of serene people. Zhang and the girl were among them. For bringing her home, she thanked her brother. Talia's ring was given to Zhang, boosting his good fortune by 55 points. The item was in Zhang's hands. In the post-apocalyptic world, luck is a rare quality. The task will be rewarded more generously the luckier the player is. Zhang looked at the commotion, shouting that he could make the item better for money, the man at the anvil. There were numerous people close by. Zhang thought he was lying. How the likelihood of a successful improvement could be so high baffled him. The man had a talent for forging and refining, it was told to him. He shocked him by producing a potent weapon. Zhang was curious. He mimicked the epic talent by touching the blacksmith's hand. His ability to successfully upgrade his equipment now had a 50% higher chance. Zhang had a poison dagger in his hands as he stood next to the forge. He was able to raise it to level 15. Everyone was shocked, but Zhang was relieved because he was relieved of the need to upgrade his equipment in the future and because he also had a good business opportunity. Everyone was focusing on the epic, level 15 weapon. People were talking about him and trying to figure out where he could have come from. Zhang started to perspire and breathe rapidly. His endurance was very weak. He had to take a nap at the closest inn. He went there to take a nap before the updates. After a battle, players would gather in the tavern to unwind. Zhang took a seat at the bar and made a single-room purchase. He was given a key, and he overheard conversation about a Lucky World channel player who had successfully completed a covert mission in a foreboding forest and obtained an awesome weapon. Although Zhang acknowledged that luck was a component of the Sita as well, he made an effort to balance the two traits. Zhang was sleeping inside a bar. He was considering ways to change his profession and reach level 20 more quickly. A player could switch to one of 7 classes once he reached level 20. Knight, Berserker, Assassin, Mage, Archer, Priest, and Beast Lord were among the choices. Zhang was eager to exact revenge on Mugen for his treachery. The sun rose. The young man was strolling through a forest. He cast a sidelong glance. He urged you to come out of hiding. The Luchenji was the same. He emerged and informed Zhang that although the previous time had been fortunate, he could not guarantee that it would happen again. Behind Zhang, there was a large camp of people. They were both looking at each other as the computer force mode, turning all the players red. Zhang confidently made the decision to attack those bullies with several lightning bolts, but nothing struck them. Zhang was accompanied by a sign. He didn't know what was going on and believed that a silence prevented him from using his skills. Zhang was told by Luchenji that he would be unable to use his skills for 2 minutes and was urged to accept his fate. The first punch struck Zhang in the face, but he continued to stand there as if nothing had happened. They were surprised Zhang wasn't getting hurt. The strength of those individuals was insufficient due to his equipment's strength. The victim of the card theft called his henchmen losers and reported himself to work. Zhang was aware that the man's weapon was blue rare and level 15 upgraded. At Zhang, Luchenji fired an arrow. It was an arrow-shaped meteor shower. They struck, but Zhang was unharmed. Since there were more than 100 arrows in total, Zhang made the decision to take action. He called forth a hell dragon. Over the enemies who had made the decision to flee, a huge dragon appeared. Zhang called forth the hell dragon's flames and pointed his hand in their direction. He started to breathe flames at the adversaries who were attempting to flee. Nothing continued. Both the players and the dragon vanished. Zhang picked up a bow that was lying on the ground. Thanks to that man, he had obtained the 20th level and equipment. Zhang now possessed a silver moon bow of level 15. Its arrows broke up into thousands of fragments, which fell from the sky like meteors. The computer system congratulated Zhang on reaching level 20. In order for Zhang to start the test, he needed to travel to the main city and locate a career change officer. The players who had the chance to be reborn appeared at the Fountain of Rebirth, where the attackers of Zhang were resurrected. Zhang approached them and expressed his gratitude for their arms. Luchenji became enraged and yelled threats at Zhang as he started to leave. Zhang wished him luck in that endeavor. He was moving through the city that the setting sun had lit up. Zhang made contact with a career change official. He claimed he wished to alter his line of work. The officer opened the dungeon by reaching out his hand. Zhang hopped inside the fiery teleporter. He arrived in a sizable palace. The occupation of the animal patron saint was not well liked. Zhang was standing next to a robed man. On his shoulder was a bird. Although customers could make animals do all the dirty work, Zhang believed that this did not take away from the challenge of raising them. Zhang didn't want to pursue this line of work. The explanation was that when raising animals, a human and the animal share all available resources. Patrons will simply not be able to develop in the future due to a lack of resources, making them the weakest profession. The resources of the apocalypse are extremely rare. For members of the dragon race, knights and animal patrons were suitable occupations. Knights appeared to be a wise choice for him, but due to his strong start, he lost strength as the game progressed. Players perished as a result in Zhang's previous life, but the patron saint of beasts was exceptional. He was able to acquire resources 10 times faster than others thanks to his divine talent, and by using the dragon race, he was able to recruit powerful allies and assemble the ideal team. According to the man in the robe, he had been waiting for a while. The spirit advised him to consider his decision carefully because the right career would make life easier. Zhang made the decision to become an animal patron saint. Zhang's forehead was touched by the man in the robe. He had selected his line of work. His body started to take in fresh energy. Walking was taking place in the Square of Hope. Someone congratulated Zhang on his wise decision. While passing by Zhang, 2 men were talking about their unpleasant experience in the City of Dead Spirits. Hearing this, Zhang recalled that it was his very first dungeon. Killing the boss would not be a problem for him because he had experience from his previous life and a well-assembled team. Players who had changed professions and reached level 20 in Dead Spirit City were wanted, shouted the nearby crowd. There were 2 seats left. They were approached by a girl wearing a robe who asked to join their team. They welcomed her heartily. Zhang rushed up and inquired about joining them. Since he was a patron saint of animals who had just changed his line of work, the man reasoned that he was probably just a common magician with no special abilities. He made the decision to bring Zhang to the team because they still needed one more person. They were traversing the City of Dead Spirits while walking. Rain was falling. The commander asked Zhang if he had watched the news on the World Channel as he turned to face him. The patron saint of animals supposedly suffered the least amount of damage. Zhang claimed that he made this decision because he enjoyed caring for animals. The girl in the robe scoffed at the response. A spear suddenly started to fly their way. It landed at the group's feet. The commander issued a warning that the enemy was approaching. Then came crypts after them. They had weapons. One skeleton's bones were broken by the commander. He gave the order, telling the others to deal with the ranged enemies. The newcomer grabbed a weapon. Her method was a fireball. With it, she defeated a number of foes. A skeleton approached her from behind and slit her throat with a knife. Zhang joined the battle. Zhang called in a group of crows. The patron saint of beasts' fundamental talent is this. He used it to conjure vicious crows to confuse his adversary and deal 50 magic damage. Zhang remained still as his crows diverted the skeleton's attention. Thanking Zhang, the new girl, he took her hand in his. They started to flee. They had to move more quickly because, according to Zhang, these monsters would soon be reborn. After finishing the battle, the group advanced. All of them arrived at the castle. The manager was present. In the second stage, their strategy was for the knight to charge the boss and take the blow, while the others would attack from behind and avoid the boss's magic effect radius. How did Zhang know all of this? The commander inquired. He believed the man had already visited. Zhang, however, jokingly remarked that it was simply gaming experience. The team members spotted something incredibly rare. The commander was taken aback by the fact that a common beginner could possess a level 15 poison dagger and such in-depth dungeon knowledge. Zhang was lying, he was certain of that. The commander understood that he had a lot of valuable resources and that they would make a significant profit this time. Zhang went inside the fortress. The group entered after him. Zhang requested that everyone remain grouped together. The trio grinned evilly. From the outside, the door shut. Zhang stayed inside the castle with the new girl. They yelled that they would be back shortly from behind the door. They were on the same team. The girl yelled angrily at them. After the boss dealt with them, Zhang realized that they were in the wrong company because it wanted to keep all of the experience and rewards for itself. The boss arrived. A shard of ice flew in their direction. Zhang covered the girl by grabbing her hand. He had again saved her, and she thanked him. The boss was moving closer. It was an archmage zombie of level 30. The beast was getting ready for a fresh assault. Zhang understood that they couldn't withstand the boss's attack without the tank. The young woman cast a seal to call the soldiers. She said that they appeared thanks to her soul summoning talent, but they would not last long and they had to think about what to do. Soul summoning is an attribute of the divine. She summoned the dead creatures that were fighting on their side. The effect was only for 5 minutes and the recharge was 24 hours. Zhang said he only needed a little time. He summoned a series of lightning bolts. The guy knew his boss's weakness, so he asked the girl not to worry. She was preparing to cover Zhang during his attack. The girl sprouted a multiple fireball. On the other side of the archmage's neck was a gem that was the source of his energy, but also his weakness. Zhang called in a group of crows. The archmage was distracted. Zhang approached him and hit the stone around the monster's neck. The monster's head fell off. Zhang landed on the floor. They defeated the archmage and Zhang reached the 25th level. He received a staff of scattered light of epic rarity. Icewind Scream was the name of his talent. It generated a blizzard that dealt 500 magic damage and froze the adversary within 100 meters for 5 senkyudas. The charge took an hour to complete. They both exulted at this 2% chance lucky drop. Zhang gave his partner the staff. The girl was taken aback. He claimed that it was a magical weapon for mages, which the patron saint of animals needs. Plus, it was her talent that kept them alive. The traders learned that the battle in the castle was over from outside. One of them asserted that the two of them had likely already been eliminated by the boss. When it was time for them to go get their trophies, the commander proclaimed it with joy. The door that the jerks were attempting to open was kicked open by Zhang. They were shocked to find themselves still alive. Zhang inquired as to whether they were disappointed that a corpse was not present in their place. Because he was certain that the two were already worn out, the commander slashed his sword and told his men not to be afraid. The traders headed over to confront the winners. With a fresh staff in hand, Zhang approached the young woman. Zhang stood in front of his accomplice with his arms open as the commander swung his sword. He questioned why they had abandoned their allies. The sword of sorrow of the commander kissed Zhang's forehead. He took his girlfriend's hand, imitating her skill at soul calling. The commander was perplexed when a flash developed between their hands. He used it to restore the soul of the archmage. This monster was thrown at those traders by Zhang. This shocked them. The traders stopped moving and froze. The archmage soul attacked you as a result of players swinging in an unintended direction. They died because the system determined they had no chance of being revived. Zhang started to drop abruptly. He collapsed to the ground, and his henchmen approached him. The player's capacity for endurance had run out. He had to get some sleep now. His eyes began to droop. Zhang hardly made out the girl. In the standings, he came in second. A young child was in the room sitting on the couch and communicating with his father that he was tired of those games and desired something different. The father retorted that he would buy the boy a new game if he were him. The young man was delighted to take first place. The man picked up the God Hunter's book off the table. The father strolled down the never-ending hallway. He was stuck in a game and most likely wouldn't be able to play a new one. The boy yelled after him. In a bar room, Zhang was present. He had no memory of how long he had slept when he awoke with a headache. When he had a drink in hand, he noticed a letter on the table. He took a seat to read it. It was a letter from Han Yiro, his partner. She wrote that if Zhang was reading this, she had probably already left to find her older brother and thanked him for saving her. The letter also stated that she hoped to see them again and that the storage ring contained everything of those people that might be useful. Zhang smiled and clenched the ring in his hand into a fist. When the inventory was revealed to Zhang, he surmised that the group had killed numerous players because there was a ton of loot. He sipped his beverage as he came to the conclusion that he didn't need to worry about the tools any longer. All he needed to do was locate the beast. Zhang took a look at the map after opening it. He recalled that the Tomb of the Dragon Crown, a secret dungeon, was located in the north. It was the only dungeon where level 40 beasts could be found. He had to pick his teammates carefully to avoid a situation similar to the one with Wang Hao. Zhang left for the city. He pondered how challenging it was to find dependable players. Zhang noticed players requesting others to join the guild. Zhang understood that he required this. He immediately teamed up with Mu Chen in his previous life, forgetting that the guild was the best place to find new players. In the guild ministry, he arrived. He was welcomed inside by a guild manager who kindly offered to assist him. Zhang stated his desire to establish a guild. She instructed Zhang to select a name as she opened a book. He believed that the game's designer was a god and that the players were those who opposed him. The guild's name was chosen by Zhang, Hunting the Gods. The guild's manager praised him for starting it and informed him that he could now invite players to join. There was only one member at the guild level. Although Zhang had already planned to distribute leaflets on the street, he later realized that this strategy was too haphazard. Zhang desired to visit a location with lots of experts. He recalled that the first competition was about to begin after the survival mission. Additionally, many experts would be present here. To welcome the arrival of the players, the City of Hope was holding the first one-on-one dueling competition in which all players who had changed their profession could participate. One rare skill and 100 gold would be awarded to the winner. Zhang agreed to take on this task. He stocked up for the fight. There were many people present. An outrageous host welcomed everyone to the first dueling competition. True fighters found paradise in the heavenly arena. The arena was filled with players. Zhang realized that he had been sleeping for quite a while because many had reached level 30 and he was still at level 25. He wanted to level up as soon as possible. The duel began. The assassin successfully fought the magician, who was not even moving thanks to his equipment. Everyone around him was cheering. The magician stretched out his hand. He used the talent Shadow Prism. It was an exclusive mage skill that paralyzed the enemy and dealt shadow damage. The duration of the paralysis and damage depended on the skill level, which was the first level of that player. The assassin was interested to know how much money the magician would have to forfeit. After the match, he made him a bribe. The magician scoffed at the offer as he stood there. When his business failed, the magician flashed back to himself. He could have used the $1 million the assassin was offering him back then. He was down at the time. He was studying a young child's drawing while perched on the couch among beer bottles. He was considering his daughter and wife. He was compelled to enter the eucalyptus trees at that point. But at this point, he was unwilling to give up. Failure or defeat had no place in his new life. The player who he defeated, Zhang, moved on to the following round. Ning shouted to everyone to watch out. He was astonished by Zhang. Duan Feng was the next foe. The random selection for the first round was complete. The system asked you to go to the appropriate site at the approved time. Duan Feng was Zhang's opponent. In his past life, he often saw this name on the World Channel. Duan could complete many difficult dungeons without assistance. Zhang wanted to recruit him. They were invited to playground number 20. Zhang pressed and got there. Duan Feng was already waiting for his opponent, so he invited Zhang to start. He was a knight at the 35th level. This worried Zhang a bit, who thought his opponent was some kind of maniac. The duel began. Zhang had 2,000 health, Duan had 2,500. Since Zhang was a lower level, Feng let him attack first so it wouldn't look weird. He urged him to start the attack. Zhang told him to go down to the ground because the winner and the loser were still unknown. He used the summoning of a flock of crows. Duan took out his weapon and expressed respect for his opponent for his confidence. He used the sword guard. It was an exclusive knight skill that summoned multiple sword spirits. Each of them can withstand 500 damage and has the ability to reflect. The number of swords increased with leveling up. The player Zhang he was hit by the skills reflected damage and suffered minus 200 health. The fact that Duan said to strike first turned out to be a trap. He mockingly asked Zhang if he was afraid to fight. Zhang thought that if he wanted to hurt him, he would have to break through 4 sword souls, each of which could take 500 points of damage. This meant that he had to take 2,000 reflected damage. But that was all of his health. Duan continued the attack and said that hesitation only gives the opponent the opportunity to kill. Zhang was considering how to get rid of the swords of the opposition. He recalled the updated stock that included the zombie armor. When he was struck fatally, it prevented him from dying and 10% of his health was recovered. The battery needed a 24-hour recharge. Zhang made use of the armor and solely depended on it. He employed a string of lightning strikes. Zhang would pass away before Duan could even strike him. Duan mocked. He weighed his sword before declaring victory. The armor did its job. Zhang the player employed the zombie armor talent. Duan was surprised to learn that Zhang survived the reflected blow. Zhang's poison dagger delivered a critical strike to Duan Feng's player, who now had 2,500 less health. According to Zhang, he was correct because it truly was the end. Player Zhang Yi triumphed over Duan Feng to move on to the following round. He gave his opponent a handshake and explained how he had won. Zhang piqued Duan's interest in dungeons by inviting him to join his guild. He stood up and acknowledged his error in underestimating his opponent's chili. He requested some time to consider the guild membership offer. The host offered to watch the second round on the global channel and congratulated those who had made it through the first round. Han Yuru, a former lieutenant of Zhang, entered the stage. She and her impressive skills were being discussed by the audience. They spoke with their foe briefly before engaging in combat. In the heavenly arena, everyone was rushing to watch the battle for the title of the strongest magician. Zhang thought about recruiting that magician. Duan said that he was going to practice for a while and asked him to write to the guild chat if he needed help. Chen agreed to go with that insensitive grind machine. He received a notification about the guild's newest addition. Duan was hoping for a notification that Zhang Yi had become a champion so that he wouldn't feel like he'd lost for nothing. Having such pressure from his teammates made Zhang happy. He visited the most dominant players. When Zhang entered the crowd, he was shocked to see Han Yuru and that braggart Wookie there. The girl was holding a staff and standing. The conflict started. It started with an icy wind. Wookie predicted that he would soon possess the staff. If he lived, she told him to speak. A level 4 meteor shower was started by her. At the icy Wookie, Wanzhen meteors flew. Each of them could inflict 500 units of fire damage, and as they leveled up, more meteors were launched. The audience grew impatient with Wookie and was astounded by Han Yuru's power. Despite the fact that Han Yuru appeared to have won at first glance, Zhang had a bad feeling. Wookie appeared overjoyed. Meteors were touching down. The wind blew hard. In the arena, a whirlwind emerged as Wookie vanished. Nobody knew where Wookie had vanished to. Zhang had never witnessed such a talent and was baffled by what had transpired with Han Yuru. Wookie had a staff in her hands. Han Yuru was on the ground unconscious. Wookie claimed that she would have easily advanced to the final without him. The other players felt bad for Han Yuru. She apologized to Zhang for not protecting his gift when he approached her. Zhang reassured her that everything was fine and made the decision to compete alone in the final. Player Chen Feng was defeated by player Zhang Yi, who then advanced. The player Wookie advanced and defeated the player Ken Long. The girl Ring of Fire was also defeated by Zhang. 2 players remained to compete for the title of champion after many rounds. In the same arena, Wookie and Zhang Yi will square off. A large crowd gathered nearby the arena to talk about Zhang and await the battle. They were positioned side by side. Wookie chuckled when he saw Zhang. He responded by saying that he detested people who stole from other people the most. The duel started. Wacky struck his staff. The players started to complain that the duelists had vanished once more and that they didn't want to look at this atmosphere. They were in the emptiness of space. Zhang realized the cause of Han Yuru's disappearance. Wookie makes a distinct area. It was a legendary talent that generated a virtual area where the creator's damage was 30% higher and the opponent's damage was 30% lower. 5 minutes were spent on it. Wookie was sure that nobody could beat him in this area, and the opportunity for a comeback was being taken. He offered leniency if Zhang would concede defeat, but instead, he launched an assault. Zhang realized it was pointless to challenge the crows because he couldn't duplicate the talent. A shadow arrow struck player Zhang Yi, causing 700 health points to be lost. Zhang understood that if this kept happening, he would pass away and be revived in the same location. His face broke out in a smile. Zhang stabbed himself with his own dagger. Wookie was in awe. Zhang Yi, a player, suffered a fatal injury and passed away. The player was revived in the same location because he had a chance to do so. The special area did not function in accordance with the competition's rules, allowing the player to respawn at his place of death without going to the fountain. Zhang employed his soul summoning talent. Wookie became tense. Zhang Yi cloned himself and declared that Wookie would not get away with it, even if he lost the opportunity to be reborn. Wookie repelled the crows that flew at him and hated him. If Wu was ready, Zhang inquired. He began to assault Wu as he was fending off the crows. Wookie sensed that Zhang was changing too quickly. The player used a double lightning skill row to attack the opponent from both sides. Wookie took off, vowing never to lose again. 800 health units were deducted from player Wookie by the double row of lightning. He shouted, "There is no way I'm going to lose," while pressing his fingers to the ground. Behind Zhang, a dagger whirled. It was getting closer to his back. The spirit of Zhang rushed over and covered his back. saving Zhang, the spirit vanished. The conflict went on. Zhang gathered his energy and persisted in attacking his foe. He struck him, causing Wu to hit the ground with his head. A dazzling light appeared. Zhang was dividing the room. Wu Zim was defeated by player Zhang Yi, who went on to claim the title of champion. In the arena, a whirlwind appeared. Zhang supervised Wuki while holding his staff. Once more seeing nothing, the onlookers speculated that Wuki had received justice. The host acknowledged the victor and raised his hand to name Zhang the competition's winner. Everyone was shocked that the champion could be the patron saint of beasts. A flame appeared between the Zhang and Hanu rooms. The girl was delighted he had accomplished it. Zhang was given a reward, and when he opened the box, he discovered a surprise item of historically rare gear. After losing a level 20 dagger, Zhang was relieved to find a replacement. He commenced opening the chest. The sword of ice and flame was given to Zhang. In the arena, the wind picked up. The new weapons were in Zhang's hands. He believed that he had made good use of the opportunity to be reborn. Zhang advised the defeated Wookiee to refrain from acting simply because they were still in the game. He also counseled him to develop better morals. In his hand, Zhang held a staff. Players who wanted to be his friends greeted him as he exited the arena. They included Han. She received the staff back from Zhang, who also inquired about her search for her brother. She agreed while grinning. The guild welcomed Hanyu room. Zhang was taken aback by the sheer number of applications for his guild. Wang took Han's hand. They sprinted away from the players who were gathered there to join the guild. The two sprinted to the city of Hope Square. They paused for breath. Never before were there so many people pursuing them. Zhang understood that they needed to add players carefully because the guild seats weren't made of rubber. Despite being able to pass the Dragon Crown tomb at Duanfeng and Hanu Ru, they lacked a hitter. In the first level guild, there were 10 spots available, and the cap increased by 5 with each level. Zhang cast a sidelong glance. He noticed a player on the horizon and jumped to Han's defense. Zhang menacingly inquired as to his identity and motivations. Han was taken aback. She asked him what he was doing here and where her older brother was after realizing it was Qin Long. Qin Long bowed and declared that after seeing Han, he had made the decision to follow her. He explained that her brother had left Qin to watch over Han while he was preoccupied with something important. She informed Zhang that the player was her older brother's friend. After calming down, Zhang informed Qin of their plans to visit the tomb. He consented to accompany him. Duanfeng was standing at the entrance to the Dragon Crown tomb, praising Zhang for making such rapid progress. Zhang noticed how happy Duan was. They made the decision to journey there together. People were watching the team from behind the rocks, hoping to alert their boss and yank people toward the dungeon's entrance. Along the hallway, the group moved. The statues that stood in the path and appeared to be real captivated Han Yaru. She gave the statue a glance. Its eyes started to glow, and its armor started to get dirty. Han backed away. These were the primary monsters of Danju, according to Zhang. He instructed the others to cover him while Duan served as the tank. The group had to remain close to one another. A fight broke out. The monster's sword swung. These metal ones, Duan assured himself, wouldn't be enough to kill him. He pulled out his gun. The monster's attack was repelled by Feng. He attacked his opponent while wishing for his death and had flames in his eyes. While protecting Duan, other team members fought off other monsters. On the horizon, a dragon blood knight of level 35 materialized. He was mounted and had a sword in his hand. He turned to look at the players before putting his harness on and riding over to them. When Duan spotted the knight, he looked up. Kai Long used his sword defense talent to save Duan. Duan pulled out his weapon and started using his second-level sword vortex skill. It was a unique knight ability that created a whirlwind that hit everyone nearby for 3,000 physical damage. The knight and his mount rose in the air. Lord Shiger was being awakened by the knight. The master and secretary were conversing while they were on the Tower of Eternity. He was observing the team struggle. He was clearly interested in Zhang, the secretary noted. The master agreed, stating that Zhang made him think of an old friend of his who had passed away. He remembered throwing him over a cliff. The master increased the level of difficulty for them out of curiosity. Shigura, a rapacious dragon, rose to the rank of a second-ranked dragon by ingesting the strength of his deceased subordinates. Zhang was shocked by this. Nevertheless, it implied that the monster egg that would emerge from the boss would be superior. Its flames would cause a critical rate of health loss for the player. At this rate, they would all perish, according to Qin. They were to separate, run as far as they could, and do whatever they could to avoid being attacked by the dragon, according to Zhang. He instructed Duan to defend himself with the sword. The knight drew his sword upward. The assault persisted. Team members avoided the dragon. However, the sword's defense could not stand up to such a heavy blow. Duan predicted that the shield would not stand up to the dragon's subsequent fire breath. "Leave it to him," said Zhang. The dragon took off while running out of breath. Zhang instructed Qin Long to direct arrows at the dragon's eyes, which were a weak spot. Qin employed a 4th level ability. The soporific arrow was a specialty of the archer. It launched a sleeping pill-laced arrow that rendered the target speechless for 4 seconds. Dragon was struck by the first arrow. The target dropped. It was possible to attack the dragon jointly when it was vulnerable and capable of taking 100% more damage. The group readied its assault. The Ice Wind Scream was used by Han. Zhang modified his attribute and used his brand new dragon sword to attack. The conflict had ended. Shaguri, the second-ranked greedy crown dragon, was slain by the team. Its contents included an egg, a greed breastplate, a greed sword, and a greed pair of daggers. Regarding this spoil, Zhang was ecstatic. The group was prepared to investigate the prize further. Zhang instructed them to remove all of the tools because he only desired the egg. New players suddenly entered the dungeon. They intended to murder Zhang. Qin ascended to protect him. For him, he took the blow. This act of selflessness for Zhang touched him. Qin long declared that he had a responsibility to save Han Euro. He claimed there was a chance for his resurrection and said he would wait for them in the city before asking Zhang to watch over Han. The group inquired as to what they needed from them. Wu Chai once more emerged and reminded them that he had promised retribution. That time had arrived. Duan was preparing to draw his weapon. Zhang asked him not to assist him after being startled to see him again. He desired to repay him in person. Wang injured his hand. The ground was covered in his blood. The egg bled and a dragon appeared. It was a unique post-apocalyptic creature. Zhang desired to enter into an agreement with it. He joined the dragon's paw with his hand. From the egg, a tiny dragon emerged. Its grace astounded the trio. The sweetness of the dragon also froze the competitors. The baby was mocked by Wu Chai and the others, who joked that they could crush it with their hands. The young dragon was enraged. Wu didn't stop laughing at him. The monster spat fire at the players from its mouth. Their health vanished in an instant. Bullies were burned by the dragon. The survivor was baffled as to how he had caused such harm. The adversaries vanished from the dungeon. Zhang approached the dragon, picked it up, suggested the others go back, and then he sat it on his shoulder. Han was enraged by the circumstance. Zhang was able to recall the symbols on their tools. He had a sneaking suspicion that they belonged to a different camp or race, but he couldn't figure out why they had left something behind in the dungeons. Zhang kept considering what the sign might be saying. They arrived in the city at night. Qin stood there and waved at them. He melted as soon as he saw the dragon. He attempted to touch the infant, but it became enraged and blew fire. The character of the monster was quite nuanced. The greedy crown dragon, Shiguru, was killed by Zone 886 players in a covert dungeon, so the world boss, the Golden Skeleton King, will appear in the City of Hope earlier. The players were advised to prepare. Zhang was surprised by this as it had never occurred in his previous existence. In the sky, a green hurricane appeared. Fearful, the dragon hid inside Zhang's costume. Han was impressed by this magnificent display and questioned the king's strength. Zhang acknowledged his superior strength. He recalled how, in a previous existence, he had killed 60% of the players by destroying the entire City of Hope. But once the Golden Skeleton King is killed, the new City of the Apocalypse won't be accessible, and Zhang will be able to locate Mu Chen there. One player gave the other 2 eggs. One couldn't figure out why there wasn't one more. He had the impression that they had made a deal with the patron saint of beasts in the 886 zone after he killed the dragon there before them. The man was taken aback by this and let the boy who had brought the eggs leave. The person shut the door. There were numerous dragon eggs in his room. Golden Skeleton King, ruler of the world, has arrived. The City of Hope defense task was given by the system. He expressed regret to Shiger and vowed to exact revenge. The crown of the king rose. The explosion happened. The skeletons were advancing. The fact that a level 50 boss had reached them so quickly astounded all of the players. Some cheered his ability to throw quality gear. Others despised the people who had brought the boss to the city. Defending the City of Hope was the task at hand. Players had to defend the city from the Golden Skeleton King's assault. The 3 players who harmed the king the most would be rewarded. They would acquire a ton of gold, experience, and legendary gear. All players in Zone 886 died as a result of the loss. Zhang remembered that everything had been the same as in his previous life, but he now had to move more quickly. He gave the team the order not to freak out. All they needed to do to defeat the Skeleton King was maintain a 100-meter distance and use ranged attacks. Zhang told them to kill the boss if everyone followed the instructions as they stood in front of the king. They commenced the assault. Du and Feng should draw crowds, and the rest should attack the boss. They were moving closer to the king. The soldiers were instructed to kill those players by the Golden Skeleton King. The assault got going. They removed the skeletons' heads. A girl was attacked by a skeleton while tending to her injured friend. Zhang argued that since it was so risky outside the city, it was best to come back inside and save the girl and her friend. She turned around to face Zhang, who was walking toward the king. The monster pack kept moving forward. Zhang asked Duan Feng to break the groups of skeletons and cautioned everyone to be cautious with them. Duan concurred. He pulled his sword out and applied the swirl of the shadow. He broke the heads off the skeletons. If he kept acting in this manner, two robed men muttered, the god hunters would receive the entire reward. One of them gave Zhang a quick glance before ordering his goons to contact the other guild heads. He didn't want Zhang and his group to reap the benefits alone. People were preparing a fireball behind Zhang. They targeted Zhang with it. He whirled around and inquired as to what they were up to. They had come to pick up the World Boss Award, the man in the robes claimed. Another group of foolish, greedy people who believed they could overthrow the Skeleton King, even hindered rather than assisting. Zhang remarked that he didn't have time for them and advised them to use force to demonstrate their merit for the reward. The boss mocked the crowd and threatened to leap on them with a sword to send them all to hell. To avoid being attacked by the Skeleton King, the players hid behind a golden shield. When it occurred, Zhang was puzzled. He was near the girl he had helped. She claimed that she noticed Zhang's team's lack of a hitter and came to lend a hand. Thank you, Zhang. Qin yelled at Han to back off. She had a foot in the dirt. She faced the Golden King who was erect. Zhang yelled a caution as well. Han Yuro was approached by the boss, who advised him that there was no point in struggling and that the only option was to die. Han was attacked by the boss, but the older brother stopped the attack and told Han to flee. He was the king of death in this place, and he hadn't even started to use all of his power yet, so the boss laughed at his plans to knock him out. He eagerly demanded that he demonstrate the power of a king of death. The young man stood up and started to attack. He hurt the king and took 5,000 points off of his health. The boy anticipated him to be powerful. The Golden Skeleton King laughed at his ticklish blows because they were. He was told not to start out with too much confidence. He brought on the Berserker mode. He yelled at him to draw blood from him so that he would have great strength. The Berserker state was a unique combat mode that increased damage by 10% while decreasing health by 1% per second. He stood up and yelled, "Watch." The man started the dissection of the Berserker. The boss health was downgraded by 1,000, 2, 3, and 1.5. King of the Golden Skeletons collapsed. If he was still itchy, the boy asked his boss as he turned to face him. The king became indignant. He swung his weapon in anger at the miserable mortal and in readiness for retaliation. The young man handled the blow with grace. Their conflict was intense. The other players looked on. Zhang understood that the man was hoping to get weaker by losing health, but since his health was so low, any error could mean death. The boy was attacked from above by the boss. There was a great deal of wind and dust. He was down to 1 HP. He made use of the divine ability of the eternal body. Consequently, the man escaped the hell sword of the Golden Skeleton King. The man asked him to continue, even though the fire tickled him, and laughed despite the boss's confusion over how it was possible. The Immortal Body was a divine talent card that, when used, rendered its owner defenseless for 60 seconds and required 24 hours to recharge. The boss was yelling while shaking. The man dodged every attack from the king. Zhang was taken aback that he could fend off the world boss by himself. The young man stood intent. The boy was in danger of being struck by the skeleton sword, but he quickly stopped it and kept attacking in turn. With an incredible thirst for victory, he flew in the direction of the boss. The boss lost a staggering amount of health thanks to the guy, and he was left without a head. He turned off the Berserker mode. The sun had begun to set behind the incline. The man had a level 40 legendary zombie ring in his possession, which added 10 points to his stats, and the skill available was the Power of Death, which assisted in raising the attribute of the ring by 50% after each player kill. In the wrong hands, such technology, according to Zhang, could lead to major problems. He thanked the person who assisted him and went up to him, but the person claimed that he was only doing it for Hardiero. Zhang looked at the young woman. Han asked her brother where he had been as she ran to him and collapsed into his arms. The realization that it was the same older brother startled Zhang. In addition to giving her a ring to the zombie, the boy soothed his sister. Han Yuru grinned. The players of Zone 886 were credited with successfully repelling the attack of the world boss Golden Skeleton King on the City of Hope by the system. This gave them access to the Demon Tower, a new city. The brother announced that it was time to depart and invited everyone to claim their rewards. The young lady took the gold belt. Qin selected the golden zombie bow, while Duan took the golden soul armor. Han retrieved the regal cloak. Zhang also possessed level 40 golden boots that gave all of his characteristics a 5-point boost. They distributed the golden speed skill, which increased speed by 100% for 20 seconds and required 3 minutes to recharge. He cherished the reward a lot. Zhang was now one step closer to Mu Chen after opening the city. They entered the city of the Demon Tower. City was submerging. The group compared the new city and the City of Hope to heaven and earth. The Demon Tower appeared to be a difficult and frightening object. Only those who could navigate the Demon Tower's 100 floors would be able to access the Ion Tower. In a previous existence, Zhang could only ascend 50 floors. Despite the danger posed by the monsters in the Demon Tower, the reward was worthwhile, and the reward increases with floor height. They regarded Ion with interest. A man was standing next to a large window on the top floor of Ion. The real game would start right now, he declared with a serious expression. They were being followed by a group of men who were running to the demon tower because it was about to close. Everyone was invited to ascend a few floors by Zhang. They happened to be in an open tower whose doors open once every 7 days. Zhang gave his brother Han a bear hug and suggested that they visit the tower together while carrying a dragon on his shoulder. He copied the divine talent of the immortal body at this precise moment. They talked about the tower as they strolled down the path. There was only one dungeon. For the duration of the dungeon, they had to separate, so they made plans to reunite at the entrance later. Yuan Feng started off. He left as soon as he located a location to level up and fight. The team also got ready to enter. Han defeated a slug and advanced past the first level. They defeated a werewolf on the 3rd floor, which was also successful for everyone. Zhang reached the 5th floor after killing a boar. He was given a wild boar's boots and gloves. Zhang accomplished the 40th level as well. He could move easily between the floors. Zhang found the monsters on the 7th floor to be too simple, so he placed them in compartments 1 and 2. Another monster emerged from a pitch-black archway. He was unaware of how mediocrity had affected him while he was eating lunch. It was a demon race sun warrior of level 55. The ghost revealed to Zhang that he was the demon's invasion leader during the city's siege. He was imprisoned in a demon tower after the invasion attempt failed. He had 3 minutes, Zhang. He was shocked because he was in charge of the 15th floor as he stood in front of his warrior son. The conflict started. The monster was obviously upset that the boy had caused him to miss lunch. Zhang ignited the warrior who couldn't feel the flames using the breath of the demon dragon. Zhang came to the conclusion that it would be best to avoid this boss at this time. Sun Warrior whipped his sword. He struck Zhang, and the bleeding started. The demon tower would shut down in 10 seconds, so any further progress would be lost, according to the notification. Because of his poor health, Zhang was baffled as to how that cretin had grown so powerful. Zhang was fortunately already leaving when this happened. The monster was being agitated by the boy and the dragon. It attacked Zhang after becoming enraged. Time was of the essence. The warrior son tried to strike, but he ran out of time. Zhang promised to destroy the warrior son when he returned in a week. The dragon and Zhang made an appearance in the city. He understood that the monsters continued to pose a threat, and they would have perished if the tower hadn't been closed. Han Yuru was concerned about her absent brother, who had left for some strange reason. Zhang approached Xin Long to help her relax. They claimed that he might have left for work. Han Yuru was dejected. She had a unique task for the participants: the origin city of Guild War. The first guild battle took place in the city of origins to establish communication between the guilds. Any sizable guild could take part, and the prize was a teleporter. Han Yuru claimed that she had never heard of such a device before. One of the best end-of-the-world items, according to Zhang. You could put it in a good spot, do nothing, and collect taxes for its use and become wealthy even though it did not aid in the battle. He also believed that it would make it easier for him to reach Mooch. Zhang suggested a break for everyone. They would participate in the guild war in 4 hours. Xin and the girl were approached by Zhang. He offered for them to join his guild and inquired about their plans. The girl enthusiastically concurred, and Xin announced that he would also be joining because he had to defend him. Zhang bid them farewell along with the dragon. Xin Long and Xiao Yao, 2 players, joined Zhang's guild. Now, every position had been filled. Zhang believed he would prevail in the guild war. Hannah's brother was on the 8th floor of the demon tower. If the countdown was over, he didn't understand why he was still there. When he noticed someone in the shadows, he ordered them to come out. He had better stay away, warned a masked man who emerged holding a sword. A man who was blazing with green flame in the demon tower claimed that anyone who entered the floor would never leave. The player inquired as to whether the man was a player or an NPC. He attacked, claiming that neither choice was the right one and that no solution would benefit him. The immortal body was turned on by the player. The adversary swung his weapon at the assailant. He already had the sword close to his face. He missed the weapon. The player struck the ground with his 2-handed sword. The adversary regarded the young man. He stopped when he understood it was a divine talent. He responded that the player might have believed he had passed the test when the player questioned him as to why he had stopped. He asked him to swear he wouldn't tell anyone and let him go because he didn't think the fight would be interesting. He was also prepared to reveal the apocalypse's secret. The player was intrigued and the man touched the brother of the Khan with his hand. He warned him that a terrible catastrophe was approaching but that it was preventable. The man said goodbye and left without providing any further instructions, telling him to figure out the rest for himself. The player inquired as to how to exit. The man responded that when the tower opened in 7 days, he would be able to leave. The man slowly vanished into the undergrowth. The player wondered if the catastrophe might have something to do with the man stopping when he noticed the divine talent, but he also doubted his assertions. Skyscrapers were hiding monstrous armored cars. Everyone was able to get a good night's sleep, Zhang said with a smile, but he urged the group to work harder. Duan was vigilant. They arrived in the City of Beginnings. In the gloomy sky, hang gliders were in the air. Players who passed away in this area still had a chance to be equipped or revived. Only 20% of the crystals they were able to obtain there were lost. The best guild would be determined by the quantity of crystals collected during the 4-hour event. The crystals were fixed in place and frequently under boss's protection. The group was put together. Zhang suggested talking about tactics. He understood that they needed to split up to score more points because they were outnumbered. Additionally, they could defend a point together if it was attacked. Zhang commanded start with confidence. Immediately after Zhang, everyone dispersed and fled in various directions. The use of Han Yuru's staff. Xiao Yao applied her talent. Qin and Duan also engaged in honorable combat. Zhang was responsible for the mechanical boss's head flying off. The third-level water crystal mine had been taken by the team. The crystal mine was no longer being protected by the mechanical dog. It generated a guild ranking. The first contained 20 villainous heroes and 10,600 crystals. The second contained 5 god hunters and 5,000 crystals. The third gate contained 4,600 crystals and had a capacity of 10. Zhang understood that in order to advance, he would have to occupy other people's mines. The mine was being protected by Han Yuru. The third-rank Promise Gate Guild's 5 members could be seen in the distance. Fei Ming, the leader of Xiao, observed that each mine had feeble defenses and that the Hunters Guild was small. Zhao reasoned that if they launched a coordinated attack, they could quickly seize their mines. So they started their assault. There was no room for outsiders where they came from. They made use of the root's call. Han's body was engulfed by the ground's roots, which also paralyzed her arms. She begged them to let her go while her friends arrived to assist them because she was perplexed. Xiao made fun of her assurance. They chose to murder her. Han escaped the roots by wriggling in all directions. Xiao swung his weapon as he engaged another boss. He observed a warning sign. Zhang became aware that Han was being attacked. A boss was standing behind him. He began making a rear attack. Zhang detected activity behind him. The monster spat flames at him. Zhang put the golden boots to use. He left Xiao Hai the dragon in charge. He hurried to aid. His boots gave him a 100% boost in speed. Zhang assured Han that he would arrive soon in his head. Han was terrified as the guild leader Xiao held a knife to her neck and apologized for having to harm such a lovely woman. She hadn't yet seen her friends, which he made fun of. Xiao whirled about. All of his teammates were instructed to hold Zhang, who had rushed over to assist. They sped away from Zhang's speed right away. He posed in Xiao's front. They traded assertions with one another. Out of the ground, roots started to emerge. The player was intimidated by Xiao, who advised him to get ready to die. Zhang removed the roots. Zhang approached Xiao as he was in fear and informed him that the leader would perish by his sword. Zhang completed his assignment and eliminated Xiao Fei Ming's player, earning him 500 crystals. He put his weapon down and walked over to Han. She thanked Zhang when he inquired as to how she was feeling. Someone nearby raised their hands in appreciation of this heroic tale starring a princess. Han was recognized and greeted by the unknown person. It was the Despicable Heroes Guild's head, Zidu Yang. Zhang was asked to get away from Han. The girl referred to Zidu Yang as a bastard and claimed that he bullied her frequently in real life. Jin took hold of Han's hand. They walked away and afterwards Zidu Yang offered a duel where the reward would be 10 mines from the level. He wanted to take Han for himself if the Hunters Guild lost. Zhang commanded him to vanish from the narcissist Chi's view. He immediately used the tenfold speed talent after the refusal. With this talent, attack speed increased by 1000% in a minute. Zhang retreated Han from the assault. Zhang attacked Zidu Yang and promised to deal with his guild after him. She assured him that Zhang would not survive the journey. Swords whirled toward Zhang. He did not have time to fight back. His weapon slipped from his grasp. Zhang was unable to avoid. Zhang was hacked by Zidu Yang's sword. With a satisfied face, she said that Zhang was no match for the legendary talent. Han Yuru's eyes started to tear up. Around Zhang, a blue energy stream materialized. He was prepared to let her down with his marginally superior divine talent. There were explosions in the city from sword strikes. Zhang pulled his sword out of his chest while grinning. Zidu Yang was stunned that he had managed to avoid being struck. Zhang wondered what that player without legendary talent could do. The sword sliced through the air again. Zhang didn't die from the blow. Su was already beginning to lose her mind due to the confusion. He moved away and began pleading for assistance. Suddenly, someone landed. It was Su's teammates who asked them to take down the player. Zhang laughed at this duel. Su had been planning an ambush from the beginning. Tu Yang got angry and threatened the player with death. Su's guild prepared to attack. Zhang thought it was a good chance to earn crystals. The guild attacked Zhang. He asked them to go on after an awkward laugh. They were alarmed to see him deflect all of the blows as though Zhang's body were taking the punishment. He could now launch his assault. He blew fire at the adversaries using the Hell Dragon Flame ability. Her health quickly fell to a critical condition. He lost his guildmates. After they were killed, Zidu Yang still managed to communicate to Zhang that he would not give him the mines. She kept saying that they were the only ones who could win, but his lengthy speech came to an end with a punch to the face, ending her life. She was a player too young when she was killed, and he received 1,000 crystals. He was aware that she would break his word. Unexpectedly, a show of alarm ran quickly to Zhang. The entire guild rushed over, and Han informed them that although the despicable heroes in the Gate of Promise were attacking them, Zhang had defended her. Under the mine, the Hunters Guild was seated. The first guild had 25,000 crystals at the time. They had 15,000, while the third guild only had 7. Zhang cautioned that with only 30 minutes remaining, ranged attacks were the only option for stealing the mines and securing first place. This is where the Archer King could help. Han remarked that he was skilled at it. He took up his bow, apologized, and then bowed his head. He believed he would be unable to complete it. He was plagued by uncertainties. Qin pondered the past for a while. He practiced reassuring himself that it was nurse after a bad experience. He hoped to live up to expectations while feeling anxious, but his arrow missed the mark. He heard others criticize him and call him a failure. He listened to all the criticism and demeaning remarks while sitting in the corner. The bow, in Qin's opinion, was none of his business. Zhang touched his shoulder with his hand. In the city, the competition persisted. Qin was encouraged by Zhang, who emphasized that it was he who had saved him in the Danji. Then, in order to deal with those underdogs without difficulty, he immediately entered the Dragon's Eye. Qin agreed with a grin on his face because this assistance had been helpful. The girls were happy. Qin remained on the building's roof for a long time. He had a bow in his hand and was stringing an arrow. The opposing guild was the target. He paid attention to Kai Tu-yin. Qin fired off the arrow. The golden area was used by the archer. The target was reached by the arrow. When Han Yiru assured him that she would soon recognize his awesomeness, Kai Tu-yin was talking with the other time travelers about her. The guild master was the target of the arrow. It struck the body of Kai, who was annoyed by the constant attack. Qin grinned and said, "My job is done, now it's up to the others." The new mines were taken over by the Hunters Guild. They were getting closer, but they were still in second place. Hunting season, according to Zhang. In the ensuing fight, he gained crystals. Qin pointed at the opposing players. Only 50 seconds remained. There was less and less of a divide between the two guilds. The arrow shot by Qin. There were still 35 seconds. There were 1,500 crystals separating the guilds from one another. There are 12 seconds left. The players were attacked by Qin's arrow. They were grunting while carrying archers' arrows. The guild battle had ended. The God Hunters Guild triumphed. With a 500 crystal difference, they won the City of Origins championship. Qin was hailed by the team as the best archer. The losing guild was in back of them. Only that he had fallen in Han's eyes was what 11 Tu-yang believed. The hang glider lowered the trophy for the winners. Interesting things were inside. Zhang excitedly took the teleporter. Zhang was warned by 11 Tu-yang, who was also passing by, to forget about leading a quiet life because he had been long followed by a race of others. Zhang observed them leave. Han Yiru questioned him about the other people's race. He wasn't certain, but he believed it had to do with the attackers who had attacked them when they were in danger. The city was bathed in moonlight. Zhang walked beside his group. Around the corner was a young child hiding in a robe. She quickly walked by and gave Han a push. Han's pockets were reached for by a tiny hand. The young child employed the assassin's sneaky stealing skill, which increased the likelihood of successfully taking something from the player's inventory. She stole the zombie's golden ring while grinning. Qin yelled at the girl to exercise greater caution. Han noticed that her ring was missing when she checked her inventory. The girl had already started to flee. After her, Zhang coughed. She waited as she stood. The girl was already gone when the boys started to run. Zhang was unable to seize her in time. He surmised that she had teleported to the City of the Moonlight. If it was a city of a different race, Qin questioned. The leader agreed and said he'd look into it. Zhang wanted to accomplish this not only to advance the talent of his race by elevating the camp through the new city, but also to gain knowledge of Mu Qin. Zhang went to the city, but asked everyone to stay behind in case Brother Han showed up. Qin pledged to defend Han. Zhang set the teleportation's coordinates. He asked to be teleported to the Moonlight City. Zhang was teleported to the city for 100 gold coins. He did not enjoy this tax. The player turned to the call for assistance as she sensed the city's danger. A girl with a toy was inside. She was being attacked with knives by 2 large men. She was running quickly, one of them said while brandishing a sword. The young woman covered her head and turned away in terror. The sword came to an end. Zhang helped the situation. They questioned him about his awareness of his situation. The girl shouldn't be hurt, according to Zhang. He assaulted the thief. When they recognized that Zhang was too powerful, they withdrew. With their heels ringing, the robbers fled. Why did they attack? Zhang questioned. They had been pursuing her for a while after Diwu claimed that she had stolen some items. Who are they? Zhang inquired. She explained that everyone in Moonlight City feared them because they were members of the Gods Guild. Zhang reassured her that those from the Danju belonged to the guild as well. He told the girl to leave and then left. After turning around, he noticed she was following him. Dai was terrified and unsure of what to do. He motioned her away. Dai pledged to stay out of the way and offer assistance in the city. When they arrived at the hotel, they requested 2 rooms. The girl and Zhang went to their rooms. On the bed, the player passed out. The door opened at night. Zhang was soundly dozing. Dai was watching him from above. She planned to murder Zhang and steal the 10,000 coins. With a knife, Diwu swung at Zhang. He had turned over to the other side of the bed, so she missed him. She was enraged. In the middle of the night, Zhang suddenly woke up and called Muchen a liar. After being struck in the face, she winced in agony. Zhang did not understand what she was doing in his room. Dai lied about dreaming about bad people. He touched her arm and advised her to rest while he watched over her. Zhang noticed the girl was concealing something as soon as she lay down. Boy was standing behind them. The 2 arrived at the Moonlight Church, which housed the Guild of Gods. Daiwu claimed to have followed them and witnessed their disappearance close to the church. The male behind them praised the girl's appearance. When he tried to touch her, Zhang seized him. It was increased. He was terrified and had no idea how he knew him. Zhang quickly became enraged and struck Muchen. Muchen soared off. He broke the countertop. People watching from the sidewalk were shocked that Muchen was receiving an ass kick when it was usually the other way around. Muchen was indignant. Zhang was serious when he said that the girl had warned him that he was dangerous. How dangerous he was irrelevant to him. Zhang had contemplated betraying his friend in a previous existence, and he decided to mistreat the helpless in this life. Muchen employed his ability to blend in. He was given a death threat by the traitor. Muchen disappeared because of his talent. Assassin's concealment made the player invisible, hid their scent, and allowed them to deal critical damage from the blind spot. Zhang was careful. He dodged the sword but got a cut on his face. Mu had used this ability in his previous life as well. Zhang would never be able to forget it. Muchen was about to approach him, but this time Zhang got his comeuppance. He turned Mu's shot around. The player couldn't figure out how Zhang knew exactly where to kick. Muchen was struck in the head by Zhang. He flew off. The player positioned his sword over the traitor's chest so that he could not see who was in front of him. Muchen believed he had run into a lunatic. To hell, Zhang consigned him. A man in a cloak materialized from the ground behind Muchen and seized him. The escaped unidentified man abducted the traitor. Zhang wouldn't give him his intended victim. Along with Diwu, he set out to find him. When they arrived at the Moonlight Church, their trail diverged. Although the girl forewarned him that it might be an ambush, Zhang was adamant about going. Just in case, she gave him a sleeping pill. Zhang inquired as to her source. She claimed that when traveling alone, it was essential. Diwu asked him to be quiet while placing her finger to her lips. Zhang put both hands on the 2 guards he had slipped the sleeping pills into. The church was filled with a variety of people. A peculiar cut could be seen in the wall. It was a private space within the church. Muchen was present, but he had no idea what this location was. The unidentified individual made fun of Mu for being beaten by a freak. Muchen inquired about his identity and his needs. The unnamed man in the suit claimed that he had stopped asking questions in favor of simply remaining silent and following instructions. To replace the others, 2 guards were in charge. They wore a suit that completely encased them. They were exhausted, so they were only too happy to change. The 2 observed the guards leaving. One of them suddenly realized it was still early to make a change. The girl in the suit sprayed sleeping pills, though they were more effective. As they dozed off, the girl led Zhang in the right direction. They removed their masks and set out to find Mu Chen. Zhang whirled about. Diwu declared that her mission was successful as she removed her costume. She was given a bag of rewards by the 2 guards. She continued by saying that lying to others was commonplace in this city. Zhang understood that she had no intention of taking the ring. He questioned the source of the scheme. At the end of the corridor, silhouettes could be seen as torches burned purple on the walls. The big man remarked that calling a large crowd for one little punk was a waste on the part of the boss. While his minions did not concur that the boss was in error, they did give him the opportunity to confront the man alone. Kachuk had a cocky attitude. He drew a weapon from behind his back and made ready to strike. He hit Zhang with a stick. It hit the wall after he dodged it, but Kachuk was powerful. The player invoked a crow flock using the skill. To disorient the adversary, they took off. After he honed the skill, the number of birds increased by 2-fold. The man attacked Zhang and declared that his skill was too pitiful for victory despite the crows. He carried on making a series of stick attacks. Zhang pulled out his sword and sliced the ground with it. He slipped when the swing came to rest. He was struck in the head by the axe that fell with him. He felt lightheaded. Zhang made fun of his rival, who was incensed. The other 2 made the decision to assist the frail duck. They went to tie up Zhang in order to aid their ally. One of them erected a spiked bone wall. He was dragged up against that wall. Zhang called Ziohe by name. The dragon swooped in to take flight. The adversary questioned how a regular customer could own such a powerful animal. The Zhang containing cloths were burned by the dragon. Their victim was overestimated by them. Clothes were torn. Zhang stood up and used his sword to stab one of them. Afterwards, he told the man on the ground that it was just a matter of strength. Zhang was taken aback by the dragon's growth to the top rank. The adversaries talked over a strategy and decided to just go all out. The group of three began to harm Zhang. He made the choice to make use of immortal body. Kachuk was in disbelief. Zhang and Xiaohe were engaging in combat with their rivals. Zhang was interested. The dragon set their feet on fire. The axe of the duck took off. They lost their balance and fell. A man came up to the trio. He was dubbed boss by the duck. He released the three. The boss reacted angrily when the duck attempted to convince them that they needed a little more time. They got up and bid Zhang farewell. Zhang's return made the boss happy to see him. He was aware that this player was not visiting for the first time. While shocked, Zhang lied and claimed he had no idea what the man was talking about. The boss was discussing the dragon egg he discovered at the very beginning of the game in the hidden dungeon. Chen had the conversation translated by Zhang. He was given a deal by the boss. Zhang would work for him, benefit from the best resources and wealth, and nobody would be aware of his previous life. And he wouldn't survive if he objected. Two powerful dragons were in back of the boss. Zhang despised people like him who gained control of all these beauties by putting innocent people through pain. In this instance, he declined. The dragons were sent at the player by the boss. Zhang became aware that he was in a hopeless circumstance. He took the teleportation cube. It makes sense that he chose the city of Dawn for the coordinates. He was moved because the teleportation technique worked. The boss was by himself. He wasn't going to let him go so easily the next time. When the boss returned, he made it clear that because he had crossed him, he wanted him killed. Incredulous was Chen. According to the boss, he would not get away with it. Chen grew anxious and desperate. The boss sat down with him and told him why he had to take care of it first because Zhang would actually kill him. He pledged to support Mu. He was supposed to own everyone in the apocalypse, but Zhang refused, so he only wanted him dead. Zhang teleported effectively. He questioned who that man was. He thought he might be the same reincarnator. His soul informed him that the player had very little stamina. He made the decision to head straight to the inn so Han and the others wouldn't be concerned about his protracted absence. Using the quick recovery service was Zhang. The bartender was perplexed by his careless spending of money. Zhang also desired to upgrade his tools. Concerned about their leader's protracted absence, Han Yaru and Xiao Yu were sitting in a cafe. Zhang comforted them as he abruptly materialized behind them. The girls were ecstatic. Zhang informed them that although they had failed to obtain the ring, the safety of the leader was more crucial to her than obtaining the ring. Zhang responded that he had asked him to gather some information about the thief when Xiao inquired as to where Chen was. The hallway was being tromped on by someone. Chen arrived bearing bad news. The ring that was taken from Ms. Han would be sold at auction. Zhang understood that the thief would also attend the auction and that he would have access to better gear. To attend the auction, the guild gathered. From the stage, the host was welcoming the players to the monthly auction. Zhang explained to Han that he would take care of a few things first and return right away as he awkwardly scratched the back of his head. Even in his previous life, only a select few people were aware of the secret shop, so Han went to the auction and then headed there. His memory held up just fine. He ended up in a store with a great salesperson. She inquired as to his search criteria. Zhang requested a set of pancakes with fruit and 800 nights without a discount. He was embarrassed by himself. She gave Zhang access to a hidden menu. He spent 1,000 coins on it. These shops and the potions were priceless. Zhang said he would take all of them and held out a jar. The store owner praised his decision. It represented their store's pride. Zhang was in a desperate state due to his 4,000 coin expenditure. Zhang entered the auction house once more. Suspiciously quiet, that is. A sheepskin scroll was being auctioned off for 100 coins. They would simply let the item pass if no one made a bid. Everyone pleaded for this garbage to be skipped as soon as possible. Zhang came up to him. He hoped the ring was still away. Scroll was not read. Zhang, however, recalled that it might be a scroll from a covert mission. He extended his hand in a wager. He was mocked for his bet on toilet paper, but it was a prized possession for a dragon player. He received his scroll. Following that was a ring. The price was 1,000 gold coins at the beginning. There was a yell of "It's too much." Han and Zhang talked about the man who was standing in front of them and didn't know why someone was selling it. According to Zhang, this man with a beard is from the capital of the beast race, which is the city of extraordinary ice. He pondered his intentions as well as the person standing next to Shidu Yan. Han was in awe of his intelligence. When choosing the camp, he had recently read about each race, he said with a smile. She placed a wager and the guy next to her doubled it. People started yelling about what the animal race had forgotten in the human territory because they were angry and surprised at the rich man. The man approached and struck the most audible. The other people feared. He claimed he was limited to fist swings. Zhang approached him and informed 11 that the ring was going to be his. For Zhang, Shidu Yan explained to Xiu. He asked to be replaced by Zhang. Xiu had excessive confidence. Zhang meanwhile asked Yuan and Qin to create some noise in order to buy some time. Happily, they concurred. Qin and Yuan doused the enraged mob's flames with oil because they did not want to see the beast enter human territory. The protest against animals went on. The bidding was put on hold. The humans and the animals got into a fight. Zhang, meanwhile, ingested the 3-minute invisibility potion. He ingested the liquid. He also ingested the fire and smoke potions. The 2 jars were thrown into the crowd by Zhang. The conflict grew more intense. The presenter's assistant was holding a box containing a ring. Zhang was moving toward the ring. He had already extended his hand in its direction. Zhang was in front of Shidu and Xiu. He attacked Xiu with the potion. In a split second, he was already face down on the ground. She rushed over to assist him. Xiu was indignant and had his head hung. Zhang hurt Shidu Yan. He came to rest atop Xiu. They were confused and on the ground. Zhang made the decision to leave with 10 seconds remaining in the game. The player exited the building by using their golden speed ability. Xiu was still being beaten up by Duan and Qin. He begged them sincerely not to hit him because he was a human and asked them not to step on him. The invisibility potion lost its effect. The mission was completed, and Zhang suggested meeting in the alley next to the auction in the guild chat. When the team arrived, Han showed his excitement. He extended his hand, ring in hand. But something was wrong. To avoid being stolen, the ring was sealed. In a few minutes, it would return to the seller's inventory. They believed the entire mission to be a failure, but Zhang argued that it wasn't. With the aid of the seal, he intended to track down the burglar. Zhang proposed teleportation. The considerateness of Zhang was admired by all. He assured the humiliated Han that he would give her the ring back without a doubt. Zhang left by teleportation. He was on the prowl for the thief. Time went by. It was given back to the robed girl. Teleported to her, Zhang. He thought she was guilty of the crime. She was astounded that Zhang was able to escape the Guild of Gods. She gave the player expressions. They took off running. She leaped up, and he seized her by a portion of her dress. They exchanged eyes with each other. All of a sudden, an axe began to fly. Zhang had completely forgotten that the beast race was capable of tracking, and it was Zhu who had located him. From miles away, they could sense auras. Zhu wanted to kill both of them, so he was glad to see them together. Off the roof, they leaped. She once more adopted the persona of an angel in need of redemption. He was indignant at this conduct. Zhu made a monstrous leap and pursued the couple. In front of Zhang was Zhu, Dai who had already vanished from view. Zhang suffered an 800 health loss when Zhu's skill attacked him. He was seriously hurt and his defense was weak. They were each atop a different structure. In exchange for being allowed to leave, Zhu requested that Zhang give him Daihu. Zhang deflected the blows and clarified that he was not friends with the young person. Zhu yelled that he had observed the contrary. He was only happy that they were standing next to each other because he could smell the girl scent on Zhang. Already, Zhu was creating bizarre scenarios for the two of them. Zhang understood that there was no use in trying to convince him of anything. He took his sword in hand. The player approached Zhu. He attacked Zhu because of his intransigence. The adversary suffered fire damage. The crackling flames caused Zhu to lose 300 health points, but he laughed at the relatively minor damage. Zhang leapt clear of Zhu. The adversary threatened to demonstrate their differences to the player. He stoked the fire. Despite using the same skill, Zhu Wen's damage kept rising. He told Zhang that the more harm he could do to him, the less health he had. The player avoided obstacles and drank health drinks. Zhu's shot was missed. Zhang regained his health and made fun of Zhu's poor endurance. The adversary was astounded by Zhang's recovery. As Zhu used one trick, the girl behind her speculated that the potion would be ineffective. Wuhan was incensed. He made use of the fabled skill Bloodthirsty Rage. Attacks are increased by 100% and the lesson is increased. The performance lasted 1 minute. He launched an assault, adding to his health. Zhang was in a tough circumstance. He stayed clear of Zhu. He hadn't anticipated such a powerful talent as he was recovering his health. Zhu kept going. At the end of the roof, Zhang was standing. He questioned whether Zhu truly believed that his rage was unstoppable. Zhu knew he would win. Zhang sped over to meet him. He ingested the liquid. The player was about to die, Zhu yelled. Zhang received a weapon-related chest stab. Zhang took hold of the axe and held it close to his body. Zhu believed the player had become insane. Let him suckle blood if he likes it that much, Zhang grinned. The commander's return brought jubilation among the guild members. Han was delighted to see that Zhang had given her ring back. The leader advised them to level up so they could keep up. As usual, Duan was more than willing to do so. Zhang was contemplating divine luck followed by enormous risks as Han and Xiao watched Duan's phone flex his muscles. He and Han would become prey for the players as soon as the ring's secret was revealed. They had to become stronger as a result. After a while, Zhang was positioned next to the dead boss. The player had reached level 50 according to the spirit. He was successful in elevating his profession to the second rank. The guild was moving along the Street of Dawn. What will they do next? Xiao questioned Zhang. He retorted that they needed to surpass the top level. Zhang was considering finishing the task required by his profession and honing his skills, which were still insufficient. The guild arrived at the test facility. The second test was being attempted unsuccessfully by other players. Many people in the crowd believed it to be too difficult. A player who had failed a test and been eliminated was on the ground. You needed to earn 20,000 points in order to pass the test. 100 gold coins had to be paid for this. The next player was awaited by a girl holding a pink sledgehammer and wearing a pink suit. A woman in a pink suit was waiting for the following player in the testing area of Dawn City. Zhang offered to lend a helping hand. Zhang was saying that winning required both strength and skill as she started to twist her sledgehammer in all directions. She cut him off by indicating a flying object in the sky. It was a robotic scorer. One benefit of this mission was the opportunity to reach a maximum level of 70, learn new skills, and advance your specialization. Zhang used golden speed to begin the test. Using a frontal assault was not the best level, the officer explained. She couldn't hit Zhang with her sledgehammer because of his rapid movement. He claimed that using melee without being certain of winning was not stupid. He launched several lightning strikes. After being struck, the officer dropped the sledgehammer. The machine gave him 2,000 points. Zhang was pleased with this achievement. The players in the crowd were in awe of his rapid point replenishment. She had underestimated Zhang, and the officer knew it. Her attack was a void hammer. The audience was taken aback by the hammer's unexpected transformation. Zhang was a target of the attack and suffered a 2,000-point loss. The commander was causing the guild concern. Han was asked if she believed that Zhang would succeed in the test by Shaw. She thought he would triumph. Han thought back to the perilous situations that Zhang had escaped. Zhang stood up in the auditorium after being struck. He used the crow attack to reassure the officer that she would fail in this battle once more. Zhang thought back to his previous existence, where he had 200 losses to the officer. However, he had a lot of combat experience by this point. Zhang had double vision, which he used to communicate with his animals. He moved up on his adversary. Zhang successfully avoided the attack and earned 1,000 points. How he had foreseen her attack baffled the officer. Miss Zhang follows with the next blow. He got ready to strike. He could easily score 20,000 just by doing that because of his double vision. When the officer turned to face the birds, he recognized them. The Void Storm hammer was launched into the air by her. Zhang realized the attack was on the birds when he looked through their eyes. He could no longer rely on avoiding attacks. Zhang employed the Purgatory of Lightning and Hellfire of the Dragon. He made a lot of points during the barrage of attacks. Zhang stood next to the officer who had lost. He had earned the Great Patron of Beasts achievement for completing the second-ranked trial. Zhang scored 22,000 points in the end. The guild celebrated as the crowd gasped. Training was going on in the Moon Castle in the interim. Mu Chen was honing his techniques. In order to stop losing to Zhang Yi, they planned to acquire the best equipment available to players. In the Moon Castle, a training session was taking place. Everyone approached the chairman, who announced that new equipment was available for everyone. He designated Mu Chen as the operations commander. The athletes were prepared to begin. Mu Chen was given a scroll by the chairman, who cautioned him to use it wisely because it would only be effective once. The players gathered and prepared to travel to Dawn City. Chairman thought Zhang had become his enemy in vain as he petted his dragons. The city of Dawn held a celebration. The guild left a kebab shop after enjoying a delectable meal there. Zhang scheduled practice for the following Lin's second-ranked trial. With this information, Xiao was thrilled. Kai Long quietly asked Zhang to demonstrate his new abilities to him at some point as he patted him on the shoulder. When they were in the dungeon, he consented to show them. He had learned so many skills that he was unable to use them all. Demonic substitution was one of them. It eliminated all control effects and left a demon doll in its place. When it was attacked, everyone nearby experienced 3 seconds of panic. Zhang liked the notion. The guild was contacted by players. The group was Mu Chen's. He didn't comprehend what Mu Chen was doing with the members of the Divine Guild. While Mu Chen threatened him, Zhang laughed at him. He instructed his followers to block other guild members because he desired to control Zhang Yi. He offered to take on Duan by himself. He only wanted a good fight. They sprinted in the direction of one another. Duan swiftly surprised his adversary with his sword. He suddenly let go of the ladder and ascended the structure. As soon as one player made the decision to attack Xiao, she was sucked up by an odd cloud. Han wanted to assist, but King forewarned him that it might be a trap. Zhang jerked to try and assist, but his legs were immobilized. A black shadow was cast under his feet as a result of the use of shadow slavery against him, immobilizing him for 10 seconds. Mu Chen seized the opportunity and launched an assault on Zhang. He was already behind Zhang and was about to attack him with his sword. But when Zhang substituted a demonic being, Mu Chen struck the doll to remind him that he was no longer able to stab him in the back. Zhang got ready to unleash a barrage of lightning strikes. He hit Mu Chen. Nevertheless, he successfully deflected the attack. His shield held up well. Mu Chen used the brand new ability Star Purgatory to attack Zhang. In an instant, Zhang Yi showed up. The dragon repelled the assault from the adversary. Zhang instructed him to use the storm wing to attack after thanking his animal. Zhang Yi flew toward Mu Chen. He attempted to defend himself out of fear. However, a dragon of a lower level was circling him. Zhang was no match for Mu Chen, who was still a first-rank assassin. The claws of Zhang Yi were moving toward his adversary. He was taken in by the dragon's paws. Zhang asserted that he would consistently be superior to him. Carlo neglected to inform Mu Chen that Zhang had already passed the second-level test, which infuriated him. He brought up the scroll. In taking it, Mu Chen cautioned Zhang not to get overly excited. He was suddenly free of Zhang Yi's control. When a second dragon surfaced, it bit Zhang Yi. He was dying from bleeding. Dragon of Mu Chen was powerful. It had confidence now, having used the scroll. Zhang rushed over to his animal. Meanwhile, the Divine Guild was in control of Zhang Yi. Han attacked his adversaries with hail. The skeleton was set to receive her assault. He erected a bone block to protect them from Han's hail. King made the decision to act independently. He used the Victory Light ability to aim his arrows. King broke the block of the opposing guild. Zhang Yi succeeded in emerging from the shadows. The enemy made use of the night and spring. Zhang was able to make it to her teammates unharmed. Han hugged Zhang while Duan carried on his argument. The adversary of Duan employed a full-body bandaging attack. Duan was completely covered in his tapes, but he managed to escape the trap right away. Duan's opponent attempted to shield himself with his hands as his sword flew at him. While cutting his opponent with his 3 swords, Duan was laying down his weapon. The Divine Guild was unfazed by the loss of the bent they had sacrificed despite having 3 opponents left. Their strategy had already succeeded. Zhang was no longer in power. Zhang Yi was having issues. Han understood they only required Zhang. He was evading the Emperor's dragon while flying on Zhang. To attack, Zhang instructed Zhang Yi. They made a U-turn. Zhang yelled that he would put an end to both recent and old grievances today. Zhang Yi confidently flew straight into the fiery breath of the Dragon Emperor. Mu Chen smiled as he observed this tragic suicide. Zhang may have been protected by the immortal body, but his dragon was not. The dragon suffered fire damage from the player. He then suffered damage as a result of using the Soul Link ability. It caused the patron to receive the full brunt of the beast's harm. They both became immortal due to a link between an immortal body and soul. Zhang gave the order to attack the right wing because it was the dragon's weakest point and would lose its ability to fly as a result of the attack. His wing had been severed. The claws of Zhang Yi attacked the Dragon Emperor, who lost 15 health points as a result. Mu Chen's safety suit broke. Zhang was baffled as to why the Dragon Emperor would inflict such negligible damage. He had a sneaking suspicion that it wasn't a real dragon but rather a manufactured one. The stronger the summoned monster, the higher the price. This contract allowed you to summon a phantom that would fight for a real monster. Mu Chen's body was undergoing a strange change. His hands had started to turn black. Zhang came to rest on the floor. The immortal body's effects were no longer felt. He understood that Mu Chen was merely Carlo's hook to lure him in. Zhang discussed the negative effects of using the scroll as he stood behind Mu. Carlo couldn't possibly have lied to him, in his opinion. Mu Chen's body was rapidly transforming. Zhang claimed that the aging of his body was the cost of using the contract. He served only as Carlo's pawn. Mu Chen wanted to take Zhang with him because he didn't want to die by himself. He gave the Dragon Emperor all of his strength. Mu assimilated into the deception. He desired to obliterate Zhang and the city as a whole. Mu Chen used lava from purgatory. He joined a dragon and allowed the flames to engulf the city. People escaped the fire by running. Everyone who stood in his way was killed by Mu. Zhang was running from the flames while muttering to himself what a fool Mu was. He pursued Zhang on a dragon and declared that even though he had been reborn, he would still be killed. Dragon Emperor Zhang was taken prisoner. Mu went completely insane. Zhang escaped the beast's grasp by leaping. To sever the link between the body and the illusion, the nearby scroll had to be destroyed. Zhang launched an attack while requesting Zhang Yi's protection. He cut the scroll with a swing of his sword. Mu Chen, who yelled that he didn't want to lose, vanished with the phantom. Zhang dashed to the dying Zhang Yi. The guild moved swiftly through the ruined city. Han approached Zhang quickly to check on him. They were standing next to Zhang Yi, who had nearly given his life to save Zhang. He was adamant that he would discover a way to save the beast. Carlo, the one who had planned it all, was the target of Zhang's determination to make him pay for everything. Zhang was exercising in its typical forest on the outskirts of Dawn City. Han was there as well, but she couldn't figure out why he arrived so early. Zhang recalled the potion for revival. Because of Zhang Yi's critical condition, a typical life potion would be ineffective. Zhang Yi was feeling vulnerable. Due to his fatal wounds, he was unable to be called at this time by a master. He had to track down a unique apothecary named Leia and complete a number of quests in order to prepare the potion. Leia was found by Zhang collecting plants in the forest. He had asked her for assistance in his previous life. He had gathered all the ingredients back then, so Leia gave him the potion. He had to ask her for assistance in this life as well. Leia came back to Zhang. He urgently requested that the potion be given a task. Leia didn't comprehend how he was able to. Zhang claimed that it made no difference because he needed to save Xiao Hai. He requested the journal. Leia pulled it out and started to explain it to him. Zhang grabbed the diary, saying that it contained the codes to 3 priceless items that were required for the preparation. Leia was taken aback that Zhang anticipated her words. After starting the mission to make the revival potion, Zhang thanked her. According to the additional quest, the dream flower was in the extremely cold city, and the life essence was in the demon tower. Leia predicted it would take 10 days to a month to finish, but Zhang assuredly predicted he would be back in a short while. Han observed him. She recognized his motivations, but she was perplexed as to how Zhang was aware of the current quest. She chose to assist the other 2 materials while hiding behind a tree. In a split second, the demon city tower opened. As people waited for the door to open, Zhang sped through them. He slammed the tower door shut. A monster was standing in a hallway when the gate opened, wondering why anyone would want to bother him. Zhang dispatched the monster right away. He demanded that it demonstrate the doorway leading to the upper floor. The monster got to his feet and started going after Zhang. The player merely intended to practice his demonic substitution ability. The demonic warrior persisted. Zhang employed soul searching. The ability conjured an all-knowing demon to investigate the enemy's vulnerabilities. Up until he was recruited, bits and pieces of his human life would appear. The soul search was stopped because the information was inappropriate. The warrior's human nature surprised Zhang. Zhang continued. The creature passed out. He discovered himself in front of 2 contrastingly colored portals. There was typically just one blue one. Zhang chose to investigate the red portal. A movement was present. Zhang was being observed by the Apocalypse Master as he entered the 30th floor of the Demon Tower. The glasses-wearing man was relieved that he was at last approaching him. The data exchange started when he pressed the red button. As soon as the boss changed, he was prepared to play with Zhang Yi. The data transfer was finished successfully. The Demon Tower's 30th floor. Zhang made his way through the sand toward the structure. He didn't anticipate going up to the 30th floor via the red portal. The essence was located on the spire of the building. Wang had to acquire it. A purple light was emanating from the building's gate. The door was forced open by the force. A fallen seraphim angel of level 60 emerged. He used his strength to attack Zhang. Zhang leaped to his feet and evaded the powerful blows. In the desert, Brother Han was lying down. A pebble landed on his face, startling him. Dawang got to his feet without realizing what was going on. He had only recently entered the 8th floor. When he turned around, Zhang Yi was engaged in combat with Seraphim. Dawang was unable to comprehend what was taking place. He was concerned for Zhang because he had hurried to the 30th floor right after the test. There were flying skulls and bones everywhere. Zhang lacked the strength to combat Seraphim. When Seraphim massacred the city of Dawn, those bones were left behind. Zhang paused, believing he had figured out how to triumph. He took the skull in hand. There was a seal on the surface. Zhang offered them a chance to exact revenge. Angel was astounded by what she saw. Zhang made use of his ability to call spirits. Skeletons started to emerge. They arrived to encircle Seraphim. Dead bodies were reaching out for Seraphim. Zhang jumped to the essence as they were diverting the angel's attention. She knew what he wanted, and she was prepared to stop him. A spell that would strike the realm of thunder was crystallized by Seraphim as she raised her hand. It brought about a storm for 10 minutes. After defeating the Bone Avengers, the angel made the decision to deal with Zhang. He caught her. Zhang was eager to obtain the essence, but Seraphim refused to part with it. As she swung her sword at the player, her wing was suddenly severed. The Seraphim was perplexed. Dawang was it. The head that controlled Seraphima was unaware of the other participants. The carrier's consciousness was impaired due to its injury. Using the data stream to control NPCs was still a developing technology. He understood that they were fortunate, but that the meeting would take place before Seraphima returned to her original appearance. Through the clouds, sunlight could be seen. Zhang was where it was at. He was taken aback when he saw Dawang. Zhang expressed gratitude for saving him. Dawang found it hard to believe he had succeeded in killing his boss. In the Tower of Eternity, it was pitch black. The boss asked the Apocalypse Elf to play back every moment of the battle as he studied the screen. She concurred. He observed the second player as he watched the replay. There was still another intriguing thing. He requested a closer look at the screen's upper right corner. He could see that Dawang had been thrown to the 30th floor by a member of the Divine Guild. The boss was now aware of the true parties involved in his case. Qin spent a long time contemplating at the Demon Tower's entrance. In 3 hours, it would close. Zhang had been in the tower for too long, and Qin was waiting for him. It's been 3 minutes. Qin turned to face the teleporter again. Zhang Yi and Baowang emerged. For taking care of Han, Baowang thanked him. Qin welcomed the young master's return with joy. Han had gone missing since the morning, he informed him. There had to be a reason for this, Ba was certain of it. Zhang inquired as to whether she had been acting oddly prior to her disappearance. Qin rubbed his head while contemplating. She had appeared to be praying as she stood by herself in front of the statue in the square, he recalled. After giving his remarks some thought, Zhang realized that it might have been a prayer mission. According to Zhang, this was a task in the apocalypse that required 3 hours of prayer in the central square at 9 in the evening. Then came the opportunity to receive the Dream Stone as compensation. This stone, according to Zhang, made no sense. You could only get a dream flower if you watered it with the spring of your dreams. Zhang knew the location of the spring. Baowang was prepared to adhere to her. They arrived in a very icy city at Mingling's villa. Zhang requested that Qin message him. Although he tried, it was impossible. To fend off end-of-the-world foes, there was a defense in place. Strange monsters would appear on the villa at random. There was no messaging between players. Consequently, Yuro didn't reply to the villa. She had to be at the villa, according to Zhang. The guys decided against departing separately. Han had a dream spirit, as did the other players. They were prepared for combat. The fierce grip talent was used by the player. The spirits that were charging them were caught by him. Han followed. She commanded an ice storm while raising her staff. With the use of this skill, the adversary was attacked by an ice and snowstorm. The health of the spirits was quickly drained. They were lucky to meet such a good mage as Han, one of the players said. The ghosts dropped to the ground. From its body grew a flower of dreams. The spirit had a vengeful look on his face. The request to refrain from touching the flower was ignored by one of the players due to time constraints. She did touch the plant with her fingers. The athletes were stunned. More flowers started to bloom around them as the spirit vanished. According to one of the players, there is a possibility that an elite blood flower monster will appear after death. And this opportunity presented itself. He passed the flower field with his feet. The players were asked to return home by a woman who resembled Han. They gaped in surprise as they observed her. They most likely didn't have a home, the monster said. She then ordered him to remain here indefinitely. The players' bodies started to encircle and be lifted up by the roots. Some found this resemblance to Han perplexing, but the elite blood monster's superior skill explained everything. With dream transformation, you could adopt the features, accessories, and abilities of a high-level player. Han, who was considering how to escape, answered the girl's request for assistance. She produced a brilliant stone. Han threw it among the blossoms. They started to wilt at once. Han yelled for everyone to use light techniques to combat the flowers. The girl yelled to get people's attention. She used the sunshine skill, which generated rays and gave her teammates a 500 health point health boost. From those roots, the players got away. They were being shot at with arrows. The monster was hit by all 3 arrows as the players avoided them. The flower attracted the crowd. The monster changed back into what it had been. Other players were drawn to the flash because they too desired a reward. They were yelled at by the girl standing next to Han not to touch the spirit they had called. Han urged her to keep quiet so they could focus their strength on battling the spirit. It was the guild of Bloodgate. They would battle them and try to drive the players away from the spirit. The 3 of them took a seat aside and talked about how the largest guild in the bitterly cold city liked to pick on new players. Han thought it might be people from the auction, so she wrapped her rope around herself. She suggested they go so they wouldn't be targeted. One beastman from the guild observed the trio as they made their way outside. He was aware of Khan. They were close to an explosion. The beastman began to question Han about the location of the other auction participants. She pretended that she was ignorant of all information. The Bloodgate guild members surrounded the 3. They were prepared to bear the costs. The man made an attempt to elude capture while explaining that they would leave without interfering. He received a swift kick to the stomach. He dropped to the floor. Khan was waiting to attack behind him as the girl approached him. The beastman became enraged at them. He took up his weapon and started to attack, yelling that he would kill them all. Khan employed her divine-level ability to call spirits. They stopped the beastman's axe blow. While fleeing, the other players observed what was happening and were horrified by the guild's brutality. The spirits kept delaying the assault. The ghosts scattered. Khan rushed toward the beastman. She employed her fireball talent. However, the beastman's death judgment ability stopped the attack. Khan escaped the blow by flying. In the meantime, the players escaped through the villa gate. Standing there, Zhang, Qin, and Ba inquired as to what had occurred. Zhang became aware of the situation after hearing what they said. The men rushed to assist. Han was being choked to death. If she didn't want to die, the beastman insisted she call Zhang. She was not going to give him a call. The other beastmen made fun of Zhang Yi, saying that she was a coward for hiding from people at the Bloodgate and that such a beautiful girl would sacrifice her life for a boy. They suddenly started bleeding, and the smiles on their faces vanished. The axe whirled in the wind. The beastman received a punch to the face. Zhang used all of his strength to strike the beastman. Khan was placed in Zhang's arms as it flew away. Han expressed regret for worrying him. Wait until he had dealt with the Bloodgate guys, Zhang advised her. The beastman grinned while wiping his face clean of blood. He informed Zhang that this was the domain of his guild. He asked his teammates to grab Zhang as they were raising his arms. Han and Zhang were surrounded by the crowd. However, the Bloodgate men began to be physically assaulted. The fact that they were touching his sister infuriated Buhyuan. He attacked them with kin. They stood in defense next to Zhang and Han. Zhang instructed them to tend to Han, who was seriously hurt, and pleaded with them not to provoke anyone. The lads concurred. Han said it might be able to help him as she held up a ring. It was a death ring. It was placed on Zhang's index finger. For the ring he had been seeking for so long, he was prepared to offer them all as a sacrifice. Zhang got moving. He was destroying the bloodthirsty guild's men. He simply saw them as a group of mobs. With the help of the Ring of Death, Zhang absorbed the strength of the players who were killed, boosting their stats by 100. The increase in characteristics was fascinating, and because of it, Zhang was no longer afraid of Zhu, and even a second-ranked berserker couldn't stand a chance against him. Fire was ordered by Zhu. At Zhang, arrows were fired. He grinned and thanked Zhu for giving him sufficient arrows to use the skill. The inactive talent Hell Dragon Ruckus was turned on. He had a 1% chance of summoning a Hell Dragon, which dealt 400% more damage to all nearby enemies each time he took damage. Arrows struck his back. The dragon showed up. He started setting the bloodthirsty guild members on fire. Zhu was astonished to learn how powerful Zhang could get in a matter of days. The adversary employed the talent of vengeful bloodshed. He struck out at Zhang in an effort to exact revenge on his brothers. His axe stick broke abruptly. Veins protruded on Zhu's forehead, his eyes shrank, and he looked in various directions. Zhang raised his sword and held Zhu at a distance. Zhu pleaded with him not to kill him because it would make him feel bad, but Zhang was not hesitant to kill him again. Zhang yelled that he would be doing everyone a favor by killing them all because every member of their guild was a scumbag. Zhu's head was severed by Zhang's sword. He urged him to follow moral principles in his reincarnation. A player belonging to Zhang Yi killed Zhu Weian. He was unable to be saved, so he passed away. They had dealt with the others, according to Qin. The elite monster that offers a respectable amount of rewards must now be dealt with. Zhang told Yoro to give the monster the honoroid she was awarded for the prayer quest while telling Qin to wait. Han handed the stone to the monster. The monster asked the players to follow her while grinning. Zhang was informed that given how much he knew, he had undoubtedly read the game's secret guide. Where the monster was taking them intrigued Qin. Zhang promised to guide the group to the dream spring. They were seated close to the spring. The monster was awaking a soul that had been dozing. The water started to wave. Then a girl emerged from it. She represented one of the 10 cards of divine talent and was one of the 10 gods of the apocalypse. She put her feet on the spring. She claimed to have waited a very long time. She was prepared to give a special reward as the first player after many years had passed. The dream flower was this one. The dream flower was received with joy by Han Yiro. She gave the embarrassed Zhang a bear hug while wiping away her tears and promising to save Xiao. Bu, who pretended not to have witnessed Zhang's romantic moment with his sister, was advised by Qin to search the area for ambushes. Bu Huang nodded his head in agreement. Zhang was holding both the flower and the essence. He had to figure out how to make the revival potion now. He took a look at the journal and thought back to how Leia had created it earlier. The task of creating the revival potion was successfully finished by Zhang Yi. In his hands materialized a fresh sausage. Zhang summoned Xiao He after creating a seal on the ground. He administered a revival potion to his injured animal. The dragon quickly straightened its wings after absorbing the potion. Han went to Xiao when he got back and told him how much she had missed him. Everyone celebrated the beast's appearance. They were being observed by the Apocalypse Goddess. She started the Villa Mingland's secret command task. Han appeared terrified. The goddess rose above the spring, but the team had no idea what was going on. Han started grinning. Ghosts swept across the continent of Apocalypse 1,000 years ago. Under the cover of the formation, Mingland's villa was the only location unaffected by invasion. The 10 gods banded together to fight back and anoint the leader of the Ghost clan with a seal. They were only postponing the inevitable, the king claimed. The other 9 gods' whereabouts were unknown after the great battle, and the goddess dozed off for a while. The illusion the goddess left behind before she went to sleep was what the players had just witnessed. She had to wait for the warrior chosen to awaken her. Khan cast a hopeless glance at the dream goddess. The goddess vanished in front of her. Commanda fixed his gaze on the bare spring. The departed dream goddess. A legendary secret mission. The location of the 10 gods of the apocalypse was unknown after the seal was put on the Ghost King. In order to locate the missing goddess of dreams, they had to follow the hints. Zhang informed them that they had been transferred to the quest's location. In the forest behind them, silhouettes could be seen. Zhang turned around after sensing a presence close by. Two creatures that resembled beasts attacked them. That's how this video ends. If you have sat through to the end, please don't forget to press the subscribe button and leave feedback. See you in the next video.